All right, this is it. Okay, I think medyo na Freudian slip tayo kanina. Let's do this. Okay, so we talked a lot about strategic gaslighting a while ago, and I want to talk about the Philippines as a kind of a new emergent middle power. And I think before we can go there, let's talk about this, gentlemen. Um, what do you think about all of this experts popping out of nowhere? You know, BRICS expert, I don't know, Global South expert. You know, like they're giving a bad name to BRICS. I mean, they're pretty good BRICS stuff, I
Sino ba
know.
yan?
Yeah. So, what's going on there? I mean, what's your take on this? Should we just tolerate them? More fun in, I mean, more fun in the Philippines, or maybe this is something serious. This is a sharp power influence operation thing that we have to push back, or maybe it's a case-to-case basis. Some are just what the Soviets called useful idiots. I think that was the term during Cold War. Some are just useful idiots. They do it for free. You know, like it has nothing to do with, you know, espionage or anything like that. What's going on here? Josh, I'll start with you kasi nasa kabila ka. Just kidding. No, I'm kidding, Josh. Go ahead. Again, just to be clear, ladies and gentlemen, everything we say here is just purely reflective of our own personal opinion, has nothing to do with the institution we represent. Now, if proud sila sa atin, good for them. But otherwise, please, don't be worried, okay? Go ahead, Josh.
Well, when you talk about kasi itong idea kasi nakakapagod na kasi, di ba? And I mean, alam na natin to that we're just in a place na kung saan dito tayo sa choosing between US and China, no? To the point na perhaps pumunta na tayo sa kabila. Ganun lang gusto kasing sabihin ng mga best friends natin, 'di ba? So, it's an interesting to put it this way. Hayaan natin sila, no? Hayaan natin sila kasi if we have a better argument, I think magfo-flourish yung argument natin. No? So
The
the mere fact
marketplace
kasi
of
na you want to
ideas.
shut them down, perhaps there's something, there's something fishy with you. Ako kasi nandun medyo
Josh,
lazy fair ako eh.
you're
Lazy
making a
fair ako
very
on this
liberal
one, no?
marketplace of idea argument.
Oo,
You're
I think I'd
disappointing
I'd
me.
stick to that,
You
no?
are
Kasi
disappointing me.
yun nga, going back full circle. If the nation is going to do a renaissance of its nationhood, no? Yung national project natin, we have to keep all these ideas emergent. Ang nagmamatter na lang dito is that uh, if the other side gaslighting as they sound, do we have a better argument? No? My organization, to IDSE, recently had a an international conference whereby we invited US, Chinese, Southeast Asian perspectives. At ang naging feedback kasi doon ng mga people is that we're so happy na finally in Manila, hindi lang kasi sa current tempo ng Marcos Jr. administration, everything seems to be, sabi nila, puro na pro-West, no? Na parang nagiging sounds like pro-West is Philippine foreign policy na. Sabi namin, hindi, no? The objective of this conference is to lay out the conversation na Chinese perspectives, other Southeast Asian perspectives are welcome. And lo and behold, itong American scholar na in-invite namin, medyo natupi doon sa Chinese perspective kasi ang daming notes na dinala ni scholar from China, no? So, it provides us with the idea na, okay, the Chinese perspective sounds good, but does it benefit Philippine interest? No? So simply as that, no? You may have ito kasi you may have a good argument, but you have to remember, to put it bluntly, like parang kay Robert Cox, no? Argument is for some purpose and for some country. No? So sa akin, let these ideas flourish in a sense na magbardagulan tayo dito. Pero ang tanong, okay, magandang argumento mo, pero Philippine interest ba yan?
Thank you so much for that. I mean, maybe I'll go to Justin next. Before we go to Miko, I mean, is this a kind of Habermasian communicative action? Let's leave it to reason discussion, or the counter argument will be, well, that's perfect if we're having an Oxford Union debate, but this is different. I mean, there was a hit job on Ambassador Romualdez. There were a number of articles on a certain newspaper, right? all of these cartoons really demeaning, actually libelous even attacks on certain individuals. Yours truly, of course, has been a good friend of these people being attacked through and through as being a American boy and all of that nonsense, even though I've been very critical of US throughout the years. Um, uh, is it really a marketplace of ideas case? Bardagulan na lang at most? Or is this something more nefarious? How do you look at this?
I take a more moderate approach on this marketplace of ideas thing, because I do believe there actually has to be a concerted effort by the government to try to moderate or limit yung foreign influence operations in the Philippines, because there are really what you call useful idiots, in the sense na even if, let's grant, no, they're not
Yeah,
being
it's not their fault.
they're not being paid by China whatsoever, but they will repeat the same talking points, which will have a detrimental strategic effect on Philippine interest, no. Ang favorite way of approaching ko is this: the gospel is not the truth until it is evangelized. And in this case, I think there has to be better strategic communications effort ng government to actually form a baseline. Kailangan natin kasi ng baseline. When I'm hearing some defense commentary from really obscure figures here in the Philippines, for example, they will keep on saying that we need to make peace with China, good relations with China. But being peaceful with another country, being friendly, is not a foreign policy objective in and of itself,
Yeah.
right?
And peaceful on whose terms?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
just
exactly.
peace, yeah, but not a peace that means national
Exactly.
humiliation and surrender.
Yeah, sabi nga ni Ronald Reagan, you can have peace in the next second. It's called surrender, right? And really, anything worth having is worth fighting for, and that's really the root of all our problems, really, because some people are not comfortable with being uncomfortable. So, for example, we have a laser incident in the West Philippine Sea, merong close unsafe encounters in the West Philippine Sea. I'd make the argument that we need to get used to these things, because these things are going to happen further out into the future, because we do have we do have territorial disputes with China. It's undisputed on our end, but they dispute it. So these are facts of life in that part of the South China Sea. So if your only goal is to say to avoid any sort of conflict whatsoever, then China will have what they call escalation dominance. Kasi you're always chasing after peace. And for me, that does not make for a good defense policy. Sabi nga ni Joshua na, is it really in service of Philippine interest? Because we're balancing peace with other national security objectives, which includes territorial integrity. And how can you have territorial integrity if you're not willing to send a message to your adversaries that you will fight and deter and respond if need be, diba? So I think we need to have that we need to get that baseline common across everybody. So I do think we need to correct, in fact, the word I use is to correct the opinions of some people here in the Philippines na hindi naman talaga well-informed yung analysis of defense policy, because they're not specific about what interest they're trying to fight for, no? Yung making peace with China, for example, this is a given already in the Philippines. So how do you make that an actionable recommendation to Philippine government policy? It's very easy to talk about peace. You should, but how do you make that an actionable policy in light of yung mga disputes natin with China and so forth? How do we strike a good balance wherein we can sleep soundly at night, that we are responding to our national security needs, but at the same time, we're not unnecessarily provoking conflict? So we do have to respond to that. And I think some people need to be corrected.
If I may
Yes, go ahead,
interject
Josh.
muna. Kasi I mentioned kanina yung okay, the argument sounds nice. Is that Philippine interest? Let me promote, no, or plug yung thesis na pinanel ko sa PUP from my students, kasi their study was about the Filipino social media influencers, and they used the case study of EDCA. Ang naging findings ng kanilang study is that ang bottom line ng mga nasa middle, nasa parang pro-US or pro-China, after doing a narrative analysis, is that they're all concerned for Filipino interest. You would be surprised. You would be surprised kasi kung titignan ninyo yung gusto
Right.
nila, they don't want war because ito yung sinasabi ni Justin na puro tayo peace. Pero yung kung titignan mo yung motive behind it, it's because of the fear of war, 'di ba? They want peace, tranquil lives. It's just that hindi nila ma-underscore anong klaseng peace, which is something that we need to put into context, no? Sabi nga ni Justin, we have to correct. No? Tama naman sila that in the sense that they want an interest of a quiet life. Pero anong klaseng quiet life? Siyempre, doon nga tayo papasok. So, in other words, yeah, Philippine interest has to be defined by intelligentsia, by the Philippine government, by the entire society. And in a marketplace of ideas, let me put that this way, you have to set the standards pa rin. Hindi to freewheeling everything na pluralism. No? There's always a standard. Right? So parang medyo postmodern, no, na parang there's still a prison, no, na by which meron pa rin magko-control nito.
Thanks for the Josh. I mean, if Justin talked about baseline, I presume a patriotic baseline here. Like, if you love the Philippines, you're not going to be okay with someone just taking away half of your exclusive economic zone. There should be also a ceiling. I always say this. We should go very aggressively against anything that besmirches our Chinoy brothers and sisters. I mean, Rizal had Chinese blood, for heaven's sake. We have to go against anything that is racist, that is xenophobic, because there are really crazy people who want war. Or are playing that game to make themselves look poggy. I'm not gonna name names, but my good friend Ronaldo Llamas talks about the certain people very close to the previous administration, biglang in-endorse si Lenny, and then biglang ngayon, sobrang anti-China and all of that. And then nag-overcorrect, di ba? To a point na is suggesting like we have to question the loyalty of Chinoy brothers and sisters. That's super wrong. So there should be a baseline. Like anything below that, medyo questionable kung mahal mo talagang Pilipinas or may national dignity sense ka. But there has to be absolutely a ceiling. So speaking of moderation, we have to go against these people who want. I mean, I'm even hearing crazy arguments about dapat naging estado na lang tayo na Amerika. Those kind of ridiculous arguments, no? And I've lost count of how many ridiculous. This old American guy coming to me and say, "Oh, the problem with your government is like, wait." There was one guy I had to correct during my jog in bag. He's like, wait, before you bash the Philippines, what we have, a bit of that is your legacy. Let's talk about the US. So I'm in that mode. I have no time for nonsense. So the ceiling and the baseline have to be clear. Now, Miko, let's go to you. I mean, what is your read on this? Because some are saying there's systematic disinformation here. And the problem with disinformation is even if they don't convince you to their side, they sow discord, and by besmirching real thought leaders and experts, they're preventing people from having a proper understanding of what's happening. Essentially, they're muddying the water, if not poisoning the well, and that in itself is completely destructive. The reason I'm saying this is there are many studies on Russian disinformation campaign in Europe, and the argument is that it's not that they're pushing really for, I don't know, Marine Le Pen or Trump, but it was more like just confusing people so that they lose trust and confidence and just disengage. Because a cynical and disengaged public is what exactly authoritarian superpowers want. You get what I'm saying? So Miko, what is your take on this? Because the minimum, speaking of baseline, the minimum some are asking is, ganito, okay, kung useful idiot ka, sa'yo na yan. That's on you, right? Okay, you want to make the 1960s argument of the left in 2023? That's your call, but no one is going to take you seriously, anyone serious. But there's some people who maybe should stop pretending that they're objective experts or, I don't know, whatever. They should just register that they're a foreign agent, that they are acting in behalf of a national government that is not the Philippine government or something. Because in other countries like Australia and US, all you have to do is, you're doing an argument about investing in Switzerland or India, right? And you register as the foreign agent of, let's say, Hyderabad or you know what I'm saying? Like that's normal in other country, or at least dapat maging transparent sila. Huwag sila mag-pretend. Yung iba, hindi yung useful idiots. Huwag sila mag-pretend na they're there to make an academic argument. Especially those who barely have any academic credentials to show on West Philippine Sea. That at the very least, magpakatotoo naman kayo. Kung talagang naman kayo, na, and then okay na yan. Then go make your argument as a foreign agent. Okay lang yan. And where I'm still willing to listen to you, the same way I'm willing to listen to a Chinese diplomat or a China expert. Do you get what I'm saying? Do you think that baseline, the Foreign Influence Act, baseline transparency is at least what we should do, if not push for a revision of the National Espionage Act?
Yeah, I completely agree. That there needs to be some sort of framework that could govern all of this, because it's no secret there are political influence operations coming from overseas, as other experts have made the argument. I think I'm not quite sure about this, but in other countries, like for example in Singapore, in our case then as well, no, yung pag owning enterprises such as media, kailangan Filipino talaga yan. But what I think complicates things is the advent nga nitong social media and so on. Hindi mo na mag-govern yan in the same way that you could govern newspapers, radio, and TV. Sa social media, talagang free for all na. You can have both the views from different extremes.
You're talking about guardrails, Miko, no?
Yeah,
Guardrails.
right. Yung sa social media, ang hirap lagyan ng guardrails in the same way that you could place guardrails in the more traditional forms of media. And as Joshua and Justin has mentioned a while ago, yung debate really should be, at the very least, yung one that talks about interests. Now, to be fair, there is some effort in our, going back to previous discussion natin, in the Duterte administration as well, to talk about or articulate more clearly what those interests are. Now, which should be enduring across different administrations. Governments change on a fairly regular basis, but those interests should be enduring. To be fair, the Duterte administration, through the National Security Policy and Strategy, tried to articulate, and even yung NSP of the current administration has that effort of what those interests are. But siguro, the thing kasi when we are talking about interest is that it happens in a certain context, and the context yun yung nag-evolve, no? Previously, in the span of our academic careers, no, we started talking about China in a more positive light, and an opportunity. I remember there are arguments before that China is a country that is focused more internally, yung internal security, arguments such as its Ministry of Interior and so on has a larger budget than the defense. But in the span ng ating career,
it's true.
as it may be,
Yeah, it's true.
nagbago na yon. Nag-i-invest ngayon China more on externally and so on. So parang yun nga, the context in which our interests as enduring as it should be, nagbabago din yung context. So I think yun yung part ng public discourse that could perhaps sift through the extreme views, no, that are being articulated by others. And magdadwell na to more on sa studies on disinformation and so on. And I'll not go into that. Maybe my other panelists could do it better than I can. So I'll stop there, sir.
Well, Miko, I mean, the point is, I still don't care kung anong mas malaking budget, because if it's like 350 billion for internal security and 300 billion for external security, that's still scary. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the scale just brings its own quality and threat. So I think
what I mean, sir, is what I mean by that is that yung argument kasi before is that China, we should not worry about China externally because ang focus niya is internal. But now, it's very clear kasi some are still arguing na there are some still people who are arguing na don't worry about China kasi ang focus niya internal. I mean, true, but it's no secret then that it has regional and even global ambitions.
Or precisely because of domestic instability,
some
it has to
are
become
arguing
aggressive
kasi
abroad.
yung ibang think tanks, the quote unquote.
I know, but the point is, you can use that argument, say precisely because they're unstable domestically, they want to have the rallying around the flag effect, so that makes them scary outside. Although I know that even that is debatable, but it's so easy to push back against that. But I remember very well, if you look at Susan Shirk's, for instance, Fragile Superpower more than 10 years ago, she would say that there was a time that China was so sensitive that it said, no, don't say peaceful rise, say peaceful development. This is the Hu Jintao era. But, you know, since Xi Jinping, China is not the same again. In fact, I said, don't call him President Xi Jinping, call him paramount leader or chairman Xi Jinping. He's not your just another Chinese president. This is more like Mao Zedong with the money, as I put it, right? On that note, thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's now go to the favorite episode, last episode. Thank you so much for that.